All right, so just as we wrap up the program, let's check in with the markets, what's called the morning after the GDP numbers, and of course with inflation just ahead on Friday. Let's check in with Chioma Udu, who is the head of, is a fixed income dealer for GT Bank from FMDQ Exchange Place. That's the studios in downtown Lagos, FMDQ Exchange Place. Thank you very much, Chioma. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to be here, and great time the debt market was having, and I saw short-dated treasuries back to single digit again.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of purchases from that end. We've seen people trying to take advantage of the yields there. But what we've noticed this week is that we've seen a mixed market across the curve, the T-bill curve. We've seen a lot of people trying to take in profits. And then we've seen a lot of rediscounting this week because of the tightness in the liquidity in the market.
Okay, there's a lot of activities buying. Almost 250 yesterday, 251 billion at the FMDQ there. That's quite huge in the countdown to the elections. Then you had a GDP numbers for Q4 and full year 2018. Do you think investors actually take those numbers, those GDP numbers on board yesterday?
Yes, every investor looks at the macros in any environment that they want to invest in. So we've seen a lot of activities. As a result of that, we've seen a lot of our activities in the market. Currently today, we have a PMA auction where about 153 billion is on offer, with the longest volume at the 1-year maturity, which has 140 billion at the offer. We expect that we're going to see some confidence there, investor confidence, where we see them try to come and invest and take advantage of the yields we've seen there.
Yes. So what about the bond, the Naira bond papers also seem to be part of that, what you call, well, a bit of a very active trading session, more than 30, almost 37 billion in a single day. That's also seen the Naira bond also coming a little bit more active, all before we get this inflation data coming through. Of course, we will be looking at a few other data maybe after the elections.
Coming into this week, 2020 stopped trading because we have 1 year to maturity. But besides that, we've seen a lot of activity at the fixed income spectrum. For the bonds, we've seen a lot of selling, more like selling, as we expect that, people expect that there's still going to be a knee-jerk reaction for rates when after the election. So we've seen a little bit of selling to try so that they can take advantage of the increase in rates or the moderation in rates.
Yes.
And they want to take in profits.
Yes, Chairman. Investors are sniffing what will happen after the elections as far as yield is concerned. What's the reading at GT Bank? What do you folks think will happen after the elections? Whoever wins, what do you think the market sentiment will be at the debt space?
We're going to see a little bit of a rally, which is basically a knee-jerk reaction, but we're going to witness a little calmness in the market as we see the central bank coming to continue to maintain their tightening stance. So besides that, it's just a knee-jerk reaction and a rally. That's about it.
That's about this time next week?
Yes.
Yes. So after the knee-jerk reaction, everybody will have to settle down to a bit of a more of a pattern. Then we'll technically put the first quarter behind us.
Yes, okay. That's what we expect.
Okay, so you think we'll be starting the post-elections around double digits?
Yeah, we expect that, and we also expect that the central bank will continue to maintain their tightening stance. So we're going to see a supply of assets in the market, especially in the T-bill curve, where they'll come into the market to try and take out the excess liquidity in the market. And if that happens, we're going to see rates maintain at 15 discounts at the 1-year T-bill curve.
Great. Chioma Udu, thank you very much. Let's check in with you in the days ahead, perhaps after the presidential elections, and then we'll have a bit more of this conversation. Thank you very much. Fixed income dealer at GT Bank, live to us from FMDQ Exchange Place. And I'm just going to switch places. Let's go trading places. So we traded the debt market. Let's trade the equity side of things with Temple Ashaju, who is our business correspondent and live to us from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Temple, this is your morning after on the trading floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. How are we starting today? Go on.
We're still in the green zone, Bosun. Surprisingly, we're up some 0.15%. Still seeing a lot of interest in the banking names and, of course, industrial names at this point in time. WAPCO is doing some 4.18% in its share price. We'll see interest again in a couple of other banking names as well. ETI. O&O is also doing well. Yeah, O&O is up some 2.54% at this point in time. However, because of the fact that we've seen some gains, some rally on a lot of the banking names in recent time, we're seeing a bit of profit taking on a couple of names like Guarantee Trust Bank at this time. The Fidelity Bank also is a little bit down, even though we've seen some huge volumes done on that particular counter. Some 2 million units of Fidelity Bank has been traded off now, and of course it has lost a little bit in share price now, some 6.12%. But up until yesterday, when the Fidelity Bank actually gained 5%, a lot of analysts noticed the fact that it has gained some 18% in the past 3 sessions, and of course it's currently outperforming the banking sector by some 37% year to date. And if you look at the banking sector, it has performed some 11 to 12% year to date. But Fidelity Bank has done way more than that, and it's like the second best performing stock in the market so far, having traded at 2 naira 78 kobo up until yesterday. But now that we're seeing it trading at 2 naira 65 kobo, there's a bit of loss there, and of course that's it. Simply explains the fact that investors are doing a bit of profit taking on that particular counter. So you can that's not something that is out of place for a lot of investors. You can expect that because again, it looks like it was already at the overbought region at 2 naira 78 kobo. So you expect a bit of price correction now. And ditto for a couple of other names that will be seeing this kind of sentiment, panning out on today, Bosun.
Tempo. I checked if you look at the Nigerian Stock Exchange website, all the notices from companies, including banks, of board meetings, closed period. It looks like the politicians are having their meetings on one hand for the elections. The companies on the exchange are also having their various board meetings. On the other hand, some of them will have to do elections after their own annual general meetings and all of that. And it looks like some of these will be coming after the presidential election. It looks like nobody wants to get his earnings caught in the crossfire of the politicians or the election. So we've got to wait till after the election.
It's just a way of bringing some kind of mitigants into the system at this point in time, so we don't get the system too heated up by some politics and, of course, the earnings season. I mean, that is going to really convolute the matters for a lot of investors, whether you're a domestic investor or even a foreign a portfolio investor in this market. Because yesterday we saw a bit of a lull in the debt market, even though we saw more interest here at the equities market from both sides of portfolio investments in the system. It's just a way of managing the system. Wema Bank, for example, has announced yesterday, the 12th of February, as its closed period. Sterling Bank has also announced the 11th of February as its closed period, and you're going to be having their board meetings happening way after the the national elections, basically. Wema Bank, for example, will hold its own on Thursday, the 28th of February, and of course, Sterling Bank will hold its on Tuesday, 26th. You're also going to have MC Nichols having its own meeting on that same day, 26th of February. So at the end of the day, post the board meetings, when the financial year audited statements will be, ratified or approved by this board, these directors, you will then have the state elections happening on the 2nd of March. So it is after that that we will now see a lot of the earnings coming in. It's just a way to delay these numbers coming into the market so it doesn't create a problem for a lot of investors, Bosun.
Yeah, you don't want to have your earnings on the street tempo when the political train is moving at full speed. You're likely going to get your earnings crushed.
It's moving.
Get out of the way, Tempo. Get out of the way. We've got to close. Thank you so much for being there. Tempo Ashaju, our business correspondent, and give you the opening bell, the first call on our market, equities market for today. The market's looking really positive. We're doing nearly 0.2% the morning after your GDP report. Let's come back tomorrow, Thursday, and continue the conversation from here. I'll see you then.